Right, here we are on the third of the design updates, and we're going to be talking about God powers, and we're going to be talking about a gift of the gods. But first, we, as every day we're going to do this, we want to take some of your questions and some of the feedback that we had from yesterday's presentation. So what do we got there?
So we were talking about homeworld and multiplayer yesterday, the kind of foundations, those structures of those things, and there's a few elements people were worried might not be in there, and we want to confirm that good news, they are. And one of those things is AI battles, fighting against a deity. So you don't need to have these kind of populist-esque battles just with other people. There is going to be that single player ability.
Yeah, in the remember that when you take your followers from Homeworld, you can take them into one of three of modes: multiplayer with your friends, multiplayer against strangers, and these challenges. We've decided not to call them crusades, haven't we?
No, we want to be politically correct and respectful.
We're worried that we're going to have
the placeholder titles.
Yeah, placeholder titles. So it's the challenge mode or something. Yeah. Now this is going to be, we're going to script it. It's going to have AI in it. There's going to be AI-driven gods. Some of those gods are going to challenge you. Remember, in Godus, you can be the god you want to be, not the god we want you to be. So you can be cruel or kind, and we're going to sculpt the challenges around that. We did that a lot in games like Black and White, and indeed in the Fable series. We're going to do that again.
Brilliant. And the other one, which was about people worrying, in your homeland, in your home world, can you bring in your friends to help you sculpt that world, to help you look after your followers? And again, that's a yes. Well, we said we would.
Well, I know we said we would, but here's my worry, is what we're really talking about here. I mean, my dream, the thing that I would love, and the thing that was in my mind, the thing we discussed, is that all home worlds are connected throughout the world. But that is, we've tried this tech, we've got this tech, and we tried it with Curiosity, of connecting thousands and thousands of people together in a simultaneous experience, and it is big tech. And I'm wondering, if we want to do this, it's going to have to, I'm afraid, be a stretch goal.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
I love the cooperation side. I love being able to show off my homeworld. I've no doubt that you'll be able to visit my homeworld and maybe be able to do some slight things in there. But actually, having all these worlds connected is a huge thing, and it's going to require lots of servers. So, big stretch goal, I'm afraid. But we have to be realistic. Not that I'm known for that, but there you go.
Fair enough.
What's the next thing we got?
Well, speaking of stretch goals, speaking of features we'd love to have, one of the things that's been coming up a little bit is if you ever played Dungeon Keeper and you remember being able to possess one of your little creatures and see it first person.
Yes.
That would be beautiful. I'd love to jump into the scale of being a little person staring an enemy in the face as it's running towards me and seeing a meteor scream over the top of me, you know, before it just smashes up the ground under me.
Of course, remembering back to that time, the first-person mode was a bit, to be honest with you, it was a bit of a gimmick. Other than the imps and the digging, there was a reason to do that. But the reason why it wasn't as good as it should have been was we spent a lot more time on the controls, because the controls were rubbish. I'd love to do first-person. I'd love to go around the world as a follower. I would love to go around the world as a pet of familiar. That would be awesome. It's down to these guys over here, and essentially what it means is you're balancing two whole ways of playing the game, and that's a lot of work.
Exactly. I mean,
I'm really a no man today, not a yes man. What's happened to me?
What's going on?
I'm not sure.
I'm the yes man now.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, something like that. We've planned for a 7 to 9 month development schedule for the kind of the core features, and something like that would be amazing. And we could implement it in a really powerful and resonant way. But it does require those extra stretch goals. If we can hit our target, which is still a little while away from, but once we get closer to that finishing line, we can start saying, okay, for a little bit more, we can really expand our horizons of what we really achieve in terms of features. So the third one, and this is a big one, so we're glad we can finally talk about it. Everyone in the PC community and on NeoGAF as well, a lot of people worried about this. Is the idea that this was about PC and about mobile. And okay, so we completely appreciate that worry that PC is a very kind of hardcore gamer market, and the kind of touch screens and mobiles they're very usually at a casual space, and we want to confirm this isn't a casual game.
I think we've solved this problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, your finger is similar to a mouse, but it's not the same. So what we're going to do is this. When you play the iPad or iPhone version, you have to pick up your mouse and roll it on the screen. That's how you control it. That would solve with that. I think that would make PC people happy.
Yeah, thinking outside the box.
But seriously, here's the thing. The original Populous, the original Dungeon Keeper, the original, even the original Black and White, was actually converted onto a lot of different formats. Populous was converted from a mouse, it was converted to a controller, it was converted to all sorts of different input devices. So we're quite experienced with doing this, but our main focus at the moment is to get the mouse right.
Yeah.
That is our main focus, it's our obsession. When we're thinking about, I've talked about nudging the land, we're thinking about how it feels on the mouse. We kind of, we'll also secondary think about how it feels with your finger, but I think if we just said, the mouse is the same as your finger, we'd be idiots. So we're really focusing on that mouse, making sure that the mouse feels tactile. I love that mouse input device. I still think that balancing and refining it in the right way is just going to give us a wonderful game. So PC players, don't worry about it. Mobile and tablet players, absolutely, it's going to be a delightful interface, but definitely the PCs.
Yeah, so we're not thinking of it as a way of dumbing down for a casual market. We're thinking of it basically an alternate input device.
Yes.
I mean, we want to be able to raise mountains with our fingers, and we also want to be able to do it with mouse. But also,
of course, there is one thing to talk about, isn't there? Is about why Godus is such a wonderful experience on both PC and mobile. And you get quite excited about this, don't you?
Yes. So, I'm in the middle of a game of Godus. I'm battling Peter on PC to PC, and then crikey, I need to go to work or school or the pub or to salsa class or something like that. And then I'd say, okay, well, just pause. I'll just pause the game, just give me a minute, fire up my iPad, and continue playing that God versus God match on the bus. Cross-platform multiplayer, I think, is brilliant, and you're getting a graphical loss on the lower end, the touch platform, but you're getting entirely intact, beautiful PC gaming, and yet you seamlessly battle, and I think that's brilliant. So this isn't us doing a dumbed-down game for mobile, but we're using mobile and touch as an extension of that experience, and I think that's incredible.
Yeah, and I think that these things nowadays, like tablets and and PCs and gosh knows what else, I think these are just windows into an experience. And I think it should be, if you know how to play with the game with the mouse, you should know how to play it with your finger on a tablet, and then you're free to play wherever you want. That's great.
Absolutely.
We should talk about God Powers now.
Brilliant.
Unless we have any more questions. No more questions.
No, those are the main few, and we'll carry on building through the week.
Let's go walkabout and
get out there. Here we go.
Yeah, now, so what we're going to do is we're just going to walk over to the art department where they're concepting some of the God Powers that we've got here. This is our concept wall here. You can see some nice concepts there. We're going to be revealing some more of those next week. But this is all, by the way, this is our prototype team here. They're all working really hard on the prototype. Fabs is... How's it going, Fabs?
Pretty well, actually.
Pretty well. There's the quote. Will we be able to play it before the end of our Kickstarter? But the prototype? Maybe. I'm going to take that as a yes, because I'm a positive person. Right, here we have the artists. So, we've been thinking a lot about God powers. Now, it's all about that incredible feeling of being a god. When you click that mouse and fire off that volcano, where you swipe the mouse or your finger and throw tornadoes, that's going to feel fantastic. And you can just see some of the concept shops coming through. We really love that feeling of fire. Fire is a brilliant thing. And there's a little tiny feature in black and white that excited me hugely, and that was fire is thermodynamic. It gives off heat, and that means if it burns a tree, then another tree will burn. Anyway, we'll go into that when we go into more details next week. So that's a meteor strike. Here we've got a volcano, and you can just you can see the excitement there. We're hoping for, and it hasn't been put in yet, we're hoping for some fluid dynamics to get the fluid flowing down the side of the hill. And then just over here, we've got a little sneak peek at what some of the battles are going to feel like. Look at that! It's amazing! Don't get too excited, but yeah. It's not only the god powers that you can guys, it's not only the volcanoes, it's how your people react. How your followers react to those emergencies that are nice, are so great. So we've got some fantastic destructive powers. Let's go and talk a little bit about Gift of the Gods. So you can use your destructive powers if you've got enough belief in your people anytime you like. But it's Gift of the Gods that you use your belief to create these gifts which you give to people. And those gifts of the gods are things like weapons. It's giving your people the knowledge of weapons. You know, the sword of Artemis, that's what we were inspired by. Some of the old Greek gods and Norse gods were constantly coming down and giving gifts to all sorts of mortals, and that's exactly what we're going to do here. And so the gift of the gods is more of the placid side of god powers, whereas the destructive, volcanic, sort of multiplayer, huge effects are more of the destructive side. Any thoughts on that, on god powers? What do you think of them, Jack?
Well, I think it's fascinating that you're using your powers as a key strategic aspect of your multiplayer. So it's all about running that destruction, saving up. You could use a little power early on, or no, you can hold off and build up your power a bit more, and then really bring down the pain on your enemy.
Yes. Ooh. Well, let's talk about that, because each one of these powers, as was slightly touched up on in Populous 2 and touched a little bit more on Black and White, are more than just a visual effect, aren't they? Mm-hmm. They are, and we've got here a little model of a landscape. Look at that! We built it out of Lego. So I'm going to try and demonstrate this with the column of power.
Okay.
We can call this a tornado. So if you cast the column of power, if you push your mouse in a certain way, it'll move the column of power along, and that'll start biting into the landscape. Now, what I mean by I know what's going to happen here. What I mean by that is that it'll, as you can see from that picture, it'll start cutting away into the landscape. If you whisk the whirlwind around, it'll really start sort of... You can see that sort of thing is going to happen. Perhaps not so spectacularly, but there is a depth to these god powers. They destroy the landscape, they modify the landscape, they are controllable. There are rules, strong rules in there, which gives us the strategic depth that is going to be so fascinating in multiplayer. Sorry, Glenn, the guy over there, Glenn, we're going to talk to him on Friday. It took about an hour to build this model, and I just smashed it to bits. Anyway, that is the end of our video update for today. As I said, all of this week's is summarised in a lovely, clear document by Jack, who hates doing documents, not as much as I hate doing them, and that's going to be fascinating. Tomorrow we're going to focus on followers, their behaviour, who they are, what they are, and we're going to talk a little bit about this thing called a pet or familiar. Not spectacular as the God Powers, but it's going to be a fascinating insight into the depth of the game. Thank you very much for watching.
Cool, and keep letting us know what you think about these videos every day. And we'll
Exactly,
answer them every day.
exactly. We're going to spend tonight looking at NeoGAF, by the way, and seeing what things they say on there, so we might have some real responses from that. Thanks very much, everyone.
Rock and roll.